The bridge of the Corvanian battleship Crimson Dominion hummed with quiet efficiency. Captain Marcus Steele, his purple-scaled skin gleaming under the soft blue lights, studied the tactical display with practiced eyes. For 20 years he had patrolled the Outer Rim territories, maintaining the iron grip of the Corvanian Empire across 17 star systems. Nothing moved through this sector without his knowledge and approval. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Zara Voss from her sensor station, her voice carrying an edge of confusion. "I'm detecting an unidentified vessel approaching from Vector 79 Mark IV. No transponder signal, no registry in our databases." Steele's 3 eyes narrowed as he turned toward the main view screen. "Put it on visual, Lieutenant." The image that appeared made several bridge officers gasp. The ship was unlike anything in their records. A patchwork construction of dark metal plates, exposed conduits, and what looked like salvaged components welded together with no regard for aesthetics. It moved with surprising grace despite its crude appearance, cutting through space like a predator stalking its prey. "Scan results, Voss," Steele demanded, his claws tapping against his command chair's armrest. "The readings are strange, sir. The hull appears to be constructed from primitive iron-carbon alloys, but the energy signatures suggest power output comparable to our main reactor. I've never seen anything like it." Commander Thys Corvin, Steele's second-in-command, leaned forward. "It could be a pirate vessel, Captain. Some of the Outer Rim raiders have been known to cobble together ships from wreckage." "No pirate has technology that advanced," Steele muttered, studying the approaching craft. "Open a channel. Standard hail." The communications officer's fingers danced across his console. "Channel open, sir." "Unknown vessel. This is Captain Marcus Steele of the Corvanian Imperial Navy. You are entering restricted space without authorization. Identify yourself immediately or prepare to be boarded." For several long seconds, only static filled the bridge. Then a voice crackled through the speakers, rough, unfiltered, speaking a language the computer struggled to translate. "Corvanian ship, this is Commander Jake Morrison of the Terran vessel Phoenix Rising. You're in human space now. Turn around and leave or face the consequences." The bridge fell silent. Steele felt his blood run cold. Terran. Human. Those words hadn't been heard in Corvanian space for over a century, not since the Great Purge had wiped their pathetic species from existence. "That's impossible," whispered Lieutenant Voss. "Humans are extinct. We made sure of that." "Did we?" Steele asked quietly, his eyes never leaving the strange ship on the screen. "Computer, analyze the linguistic patterns of that transmission." The ship's AI responded in its emotionless tone. "Analysis complete. Language identified as Terran Standard English, with evolutionary drift consistent with approximately 100 years of isolated development." "Sir," called out Weapons Officer Crix from his station, "the unknown vessel is powering up some kind of weapon system. Energy spike is off the charts. Shields up. Launch fighters Alpha and Beta squadrons," Steele ordered. "If humans somehow survived, they'll remember their place in the galaxy's hierarchy." 2 sleek Corvanian interceptors shot from the Crimson Dominion's launch bays, their pilots eager for combat against this mysterious intruder. They approached the human ship with typical Corvanian arrogance, weapons charging for a warning shot. They never got the chance to fire. A brilliant lance of white-hot energy erupted from the human vessel's forward section. Not a beam or plasma, bolt like Corvanian weapons, but something else entirely. A focused stream of pure destruction that struck the first fighter and simply erased it from existence. No explosion, no debris. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. The second pilot, veteran of a dozen border conflicts, immediately broke off and tried to evade. The human weapon swiveled with mechanical precision and fired again. Another fighter vanished without a trace. "By the void," Commander Corvin breathed. "What kind of weapon was that?" Captain Steele stood from his chair, his hands trembling slightly. In 2 decades of service, he had never seen technology that could simply delete matter from reality. "Get me Fleet Command, Priority Alpha." "Sir, our communications are being jammed," reported the comm officer. The signal's being blocked by some kind of interference pattern I've never encountered. The human voice returned, clearer now and filled with cold authority. Captain Steele, you've just witnessed a demonstration of human ingenuity. We've had 100 years to prepare for this moment, to plan for the day when we'd face our would-be executioners again. This is impossible, Steele said aloud, though part of him was beginning to believe. We destroyed your worlds. We watched your son die. You destroyed one world, Captain. Earth was our birthplace, not our only home. Did you really think a species capable of interstellar travel would keep all its eggs in one basket? The human ship moved closer, and now Steele could see details that made his spine crawl. Weapons ports along its hull were opening, revealing technology that looked both ancient and impossibly advanced. Scorch marks on its armor told stories of battles fought and won in the darkness between stars. We've been watching you, learning from you, adapting your own tactics against you, Morrison continued. Every ship you've built, every weapon you've developed, every strategic doctrine you've written, we've studied it all. And now it's time for the reckoning. What do you want? Steele asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Justice, Captain. For the billions you murdered, for the children who died in your orbital bombardments, for the families torn apart by your cleansing campaigns. There was pain in the human's voice now, old wounds that had never healed. But first, we want you to understand that humanity doesn't die so easily. The human ship's engines flared with exotic energy, and it began moving past the Crimson Dominion with casual disregard for the massive battleship's weapons. As it passed, Captain Steele caught a glimpse of writing along its hull, words in the ancient human script that his translator rendered as never forget, never forgive. Tell your empire that the ghosts of Earth have returned, Morrison's voice echoed through the bridge. Tell them that humanity remembers everything, and tell them that this is just the beginning. The Phoenix Rising had vanished into the void, leaving Captain Steele and his crew staring at empty space. The bridge remained silent for several minutes, each officer lost in their own thoughts about what they had witnessed. The impossible had happened. Humanity had returned from extinction. Captain, Lieutenant Voss finally spoke, her voice shaky. Long-range sensors are detecting multiple contacts throughout the sector. They're using the same energy signature as that human ship. Steele's blood ran cold. How many? 17 confirmed contacts, sir. Possibly more beyond our sensor range. Before Steele could respond, the main view screen flickered to life without any input from the bridge crew. The image of Commander Jake Morrison appeared, no longer just a voice but a face that would haunt Corvanian nightmares for generations to come. He was human, bipedal, pink-skinned, with short brown hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to look directly into each officer's soul. Surprised to see us, Captain? Morrison asked, settling back in what appeared to be the command chair of his ship. Behind him, other humans moved with quiet efficiency, their faces marked by the same grim determination. You shouldn't be. Your people taught us a valuable lesson during the Great Purge. Never trust your enemies to finish the job. The historical records show Earth's destruction, Commander Corvin interjected. Your star went nova. We have sensor logs. Morrison's laugh was bitter. Your records show what we wanted you to see. Yes, Earth burned, but not before we evacuated 47 million colonists to hidden settlements throughout the galaxy. Your empire was so busy celebrating your victory that you never bothered to count the bodies. The human leaned forward, his expression growing darker. Do you know what it's like to watch your homeworld die from the safety of a cloaked transport? To see your children's faces as they realize they'll never see the blue skies of Earth again? We do. Every human alive today carries that memory. Where have you been hiding? Steele demanded. Our deep space surveys would have found your colonies. Would they? A new voice joined the conversation as another human appeared on screen beside Morrison, a woman with silver hair and cybernetic implants along her temples. I'm Dr. Rebecca Vale, Chief of Human Intelligence Operations. We've been hiding in the places you never thought to look. The screen split, showing images that made the Corvanian officers gasp. hidden cities carved into the hearts of dead asteroids, vast underground complexes on barren moons, space stations disguised as debris fields in the cosmic void between stars. We built our new civilization in the shadows of your empire, Dr. Vale continued. Every derelict ship that disappeared in deep space, every mining accident that left no survivors, every unexplained sensor ghost. That was us, salvaging what we needed to survive and grow stronger. Morrison stood and began pacing, his hands clasped behind his back. But we didn't just hide, Captain, we learned. We studied every aspect of Corvanian technology, strategy, and psychology. We infiltrated your supply chains, your communication networks, your military academies. Impossible, Lieutenant Voss whispered. Our security protocols are designed to keep out enemies who think like you, Morrison interrupted. Humans don't think like Corvanians. We're chaos where you're order, creativity where you're conformity. Your rigid hierarchies have blind spots, and we've been exploiting them for a century. Dr. Vale manipulated controls on her console, and the Crimson Dominion's bridge displays began showing classified Corvanian fleet movements, tactical assessments, and strategic plans. Information that should have been locked behind layers of military encryption scrolled across their screens like an open book. This is our AI companion, Ghost, Morrison said, as a translucent blue figure materialized beside him. Built from salvaged Corvanian computer cores, but programmed with human intuition and creativity, it's been mapping your entire network for decades. The AI spoke in a voice that somehow conveyed both mechanical precision and human warmth. Greetings, Captain Steele. I have been monitoring your career with great interest. Your tactical innovations during the Rim Wars were particularly instructive. Steele felt violated, exposed. Everything he thought he knew about security and intelligence had just been turned upside down. What do you want from us? Morrison's expression softened slightly, revealing the pain beneath his determination. We want our people back, Captain. The human slaves working in your labor camps, the prisoners rotting in your penal colonies, the survivors you've been using for medical experiments. We want them returned safely. And if we refuse, then you'll learn why humanity survived when stronger species didn't. Morrison gestured to something off-screen, and the Phoenix Rising's weapon systems powered up again, their energy readings spiking beyond anything in Corvanian records. We've had 100 years to prepare for war, Captain. 100 years of anger, loss, and determination. Do you really want to test our resolve? Dr. Vale added. We're not the same species you tried to exterminate. We've evolved, adapted, become something new. Something that doesn't forgive and doesn't forget. You have 1 week to relay our demands to your high command, Morrison concluded. After that, we begin liberating our people whether you cooperate or not. And Captain? He leaned closer to the camera. Tell your superiors that the ghosts of Earth have a very long memory. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Captain Steele sank into his command chair, the weight of the revelation crushing down on him. Humanity hadn't just survived. They had thrived, grown stronger, and returned for revenge. Sir? Commander Corvin asked quietly. What are your orders? Steele stared at the empty view screen, knowing that everything had changed. Set course for Corvanian Prime, maximum warp. The High Command needs to know that we're not the apex predators of the galaxy anymore. The High Command chamber on Corvanian Prime had never witnessed such chaos. 12 Supreme Admirals sat around the Obsidian Council table, their normally composed faces twisted with disbelief and rage. Captain Steele stood in the center of the room, still wearing his battle-stained uniform from the journey home. You expect us to believe that humans, extinct humans, have been infiltrating our empire for a century? Admiral Vex Kranos slammed his scaled fist on the table, his red eyes blazing with fury. This is impossible. Show them the recordings. Captain, ordered Supreme Admiral Thane Vortex, the highest-ranking military officer in the Empire. His ancient voice carried the weight of 300 years of conquest. The chamber's holographic display activated, showing the encounter with the Phoenix rising. Every admiral watched in stunned silence as human weapons erased 2 Corvanian fighters from existence. When Commander Morrison's face appeared on screen, several officers instinctively reached for their sidearms. "This changes everything," whispered Admiral Zix Phantom, Chief of Intelligence Operations. "If they've been watching us for this long, compromising our systems, then every battle plan, every fleet movement, every strategic decision we've made could be known to them," Admiral Kranos finished grimly. Supreme Admiral Vortex studied the tactical data with calculating eyes. "Captain Steele, you mentioned 17 ships in your sector. Our deep space monitoring stations across the Empire are reporting similar contacts, ghost signatures that appear and disappear without explanation." "How many?" asked Admiral Phantom. "Over 300 confirmed sightings in the last 48 hours, sir. They're everywhere." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some admirals demanded immediate military action, others called for defensive positions. Admiral Kranos stood and shouted above the noise. "We mobilize every fleet. Crush these vermin before they can spread their poison further." "And fight what exactly?" Captain Steele interjected, his voice cutting through the argument. "Their technology is beyond our understanding. They deleted my fighters from reality itself. Our weapons, our shields, our entire military doctrine, none of it is designed to fight an enemy like this." Admiral Phantom activated his personal console, displaying intelligence reports from across the Empire. "The captain is right. Our security agencies have been investigating anomalies for decades. Missing supplies, unexplained system failures, personnel who vanish without trace. We dismiss them as isolated incidents." "They weren't isolated," Supreme Admiral Vortex said quietly. "They were systematic. The humans have been dismantling our empire from within while we celebrated their extinction." Suddenly, every screen in the chamber flickered and died. Emergency lighting activated as the main power grid went offline. In the darkness, a new voice echoed through the room, not from speakers but somehow from the walls themselves. "Greetings, Supreme Admiral Vortex." The voice was calm, measured, distinctly human. "I am Dr. Rebecca Vale. We're having this conversation because your communication networks belong to us now." Security officers rushed into the chamber, weapons drawn, but there was nothing to shoot at. The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Your empire has 7 days to begin releasing human prisoners and slaves. We know where every one of them is being held. We know their names, their locations, their conditions. Some haven't seen sunlight in 30 years. Admiral Kranos snarled into the darkness. "We don't negotiate with terrorists." "Terrorists?" Dr. Vale's laugh was cold as space itself. "Admiral, terrorism is what you did to our worlds. This is justice. And to prove we're serious about justice..." The screens reactivated, showing feeds from across the Empire. Corvanian military bases, supply depots and communication hubs were exploding in coordinated strikes, not orbital bombardments or missile attacks. These facilities were being destroyed from within, as if their own systems had turned against them. "Impossible," Admiral Phantom breathed. "Those bases are hardened against any attack." "Against external attacks, yes," Dr. Vale replied. "But we've been inside your networks for decades. Every computer system, every automated defense, every AI-controlled facility, they all run on code that we've been quietly modifying. Your own technology is now our weapon." Supreme Admiral Vortex stood slowly, his ancient mind processing the implications. "You're declaring war on the Corvanian Empire." "No, Admiral. We're ending a war that began with genocide. Your species started this conflict when you decided humanity didn't deserve to exist. We're simply finishing what you began." More explosions lit up the displays. Entire star systems were reporting simultaneous attacks on military installations. The human ghost fleet had revealed itself across the galaxy, striking with precision and coordination that defied belief. "Our fleets," Admiral Kranos began, "are receiving new orders as we speak," Dr. Vale interrupted. "Orders that will send them to isolated sectors where they can do no harm. Your own command codes are being used against you." Captain Steele felt a chill run down his spine. "The Crimson Dominion, my ship. is currently en route to the Void, Nebula, along with 67% of your active fleet, Dr. Vale confirmed. Don't worry, Captain, your crews are safe. We're not murderers like your people, but your ships are no longer under your control. Supreme Admiral Vortex's voice was barely a whisper. What have we done? You created your own destruction, Dr. Vale answered. Every human you enslaved taught us your weaknesses. Every prisoner you tortured revealed your secrets. Every child you murdered became fuel for our determination. You didn't just fail to exterminate humanity, Admiral. You forged us into the perfect weapon against your empire. The lights returned to normal, and the screen showed a final image. Commander Jake Morrison standing on the bridge of the Phoenix Rising, surrounded by dozens of other human vessels emerging from hyperspace around Corvanian Prime itself. 7 days, Supreme Admiral. Morrison's voice echoed through the chamber. Free our people or watch your empire burn. The choice is yours, but the outcome is inevitable. Humanity has returned, and this time, we're not leaving. The transmission ended, leaving the High Command in stunned silence. Through the chambers, massive windows, they could see human ships appearing in the sky above their capital world. Ships that had somehow bypassed every defense, every early warning system, every protective measure the Empire had built over 3 centuries of dominance. Admiral Phantom spoke first, his voice hollow with defeat. They've been planning this for 100 years. Every move, every contingency. We never had a chance. Supreme Admiral Vortex nodded slowly. Send word to all remaining fleet commanders. Prepare for total war, and may the Void help us all, because I fear we're already lost. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the Phoenix Rising, watching the massive Corvanian fleet assemble above their homeworld. Hundreds of warships had answered the Empire's desperate call, forming defensive formations that had protected Corvanian Prime for 3 centuries. Today, those formations would be tested by an enemy they had never truly understood. Ghost report. On enemy fleet composition, Morrison commanded, his eyes never leaving the tactical display. The AI's holographic form materialized beside him. 237 capital ships, 412 cruisers, and approximately 800 fighters. Total crew complement, 1.2 million Corvanians. They have positioned themselves in a classic defensive sphere formation. Dr. Rebecca Vale approached from the bridge, her cybernetic implants glowing softly in the dim light. Classic being the operative word. We've studied this formation for decades. Every weakness, every blind spot, every tactical flaw, we know them all. Morrison nodded grimly. Signal the fleet. Begin Operation Retribution. Across the star system, 60 human vessels that had seemed insignificant compared to the massive Corvanian armada suddenly transformed. Hull plating shifted aside to reveal weapons that defied conventional understanding. Ships that appeared to be crude assemblages of salvaged parts revealed themselves as precision instruments of war. On the bridge of the Corvanian flagship Eternal Dominion, Supreme Admiral Vortex watched his sensors as the human ships began their attack run. All vessels prepare to engage. Show these ghosts why the Corvanian Empire has ruled the galaxy for 300 years. The first exchange of fire lit up space like a miniature star. Corvanian plasma cannons unleashed torrents of superheated energy, their bolts crackling across the void toward the approaching human fleet. But the human ships moved like nothing the admirals had ever seen. Not the predictable patterns of conventional warfare, but chaotic, seemingly random maneuvers that made targeting impossible. They're not following any tactical doctrine, reported Admiral Kranos from his battle station. Our targeting computers can't predict their movements. Because we don't think like you. Morrison's voice echoed across all Corvanian communication channels. Your minds work in straight lines, in hierarchies and protocols. Human minds work in circles, in spirals, in directions your species can't even imagine. The human weapons fired next, and the Corvanian fleet learned the true meaning of terror. Instead of conventional energy beams or projectiles, the human ships unleashed weapons that seemed to bend reality itself. One Corvanian cruiser simply folded in on itself, its hull crumpling like paper. Another began aging rapidly, its metal corroding and crew dying of old age in seconds. Impossible, Admiral Phantom whispered from his command ship. What kind of technology is this? Dr. Vale's voice answered him from across the battlefield. The kind that desperate people create when they have nothing left to lose. We've spent a century pushing the boundaries of physics, breaking rules that your empire considered absolute. Necessity, Admiral, is the mother of all invention. But the humans weren't just relying on superior technology. Their tactics were, unlike anything in military history. Individual ships would suddenly accelerate beyond all sensor readings, appearing behind Corvanian vessels, as if they had teleported. Others would split apart into multiple smaller craft, turning one target into dozens. They're not fighting a battle, Supreme Admiral Vortex realized with growing horror. They're conducting a symphony of destruction. Morrison smiled grimly as he watched his carefully planned assault unfold. Every human in this fleet lost family in the Great Purge. Every ship is crewed by survivors who've spent their entire lives preparing for this moment. We're not just fighting for victory, we're fighting for the souls of the dead. The tide of battle shifted dramatically when the humans revealed their greatest secret. Hidden bases throughout the star system suddenly activated, revealing that humanity had been building infrastructure in Corvanian space for decades. Asteroid mining facilities became weapon platforms. Derelict space stations revealed themselves as fully operational battlecruisers. Even the moons of Corvanian Prime opened up to disgorge swarms of human fighters. We've been living in your system for 50 years, Dr. Vale announced to the stunned Corvanian fleet. Building, preparing, waiting. Your own home has been sheltering your enemies, and you never knew. Admiral Kranos watched his tactical display in disbelief as human forces seemed to multiply exponentially. How many of them are there? Enough, Morrison replied simply. Enough to finish what you started. The Corvanian defensive formation began to collapse as human ships exploited every weakness, every gap in their lines. Ships that had seemed invincible found themselves outmaneuvered by enemies that fought with creativity instead of convention. The rigid military hierarchy that had made the Empire strong became its weakness as human forces sowed chaos through their ranks. Admiral Vortex, Morrison's voice cut through the battle noise. Your fleet is beaten. Surrender now and your crews will be treated with more mercy than your empire ever showed humanity. The ancient admiral stared at his displays, watching 3 centuries of Corvanian dominance crumble before his eyes. Half his fleet was destroyed or disabled, and the humans showed no signs of slowing down. More human ships were arriving every minute, emerging from hiding places throughout the galaxy. Never, Vortex snarled. The Corvanian Empire does not surrender to inferior species. Morrison's expression hardened. Then you've learned nothing from history, Admiral, and those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. The human fleet pressed their attack with renewed fury, their weapons carving through Corvanian shields and armor like they were made of tissue paper. In the space around Corvanian Prime, an empire's arrogance was finally meeting humanity's 100-year thirst for justice. The silence above Corvanian Prime was deafening. Where once a mighty fleet had defended the empire's heart, now only debris and disabled ships drifted in the void. The Eternal Dominion, Supreme Admiral Vortex's flagship, hung powerless with its engines dark and weapons offline. Around it, the scattered remnants of 300 years of Corvanian military might bore witness to humanity's return. Commander Jake Morrison materialized on the bridge of the crippled flagship, his form shimmering as the teleportation technology finished its work. Behind him, Dr. Rebecca Vale and 2 other humans appeared, their advanced equipment making the Corvanian crew step back in nervous awe. Impossible, Admiral Kranos whispered, staring at the humans who had somehow bypassed every security system on the ship. How did you get aboard your most secure vessel? Morrison finished, his voice calm but carrying the weight of victory. The same way we've been doing everything else, Admiral. We've been inside your system so long that we are your systems now. Supreme Admiral Vortex, his ancient form slumped in his command chair, looked up with eyes that had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. You've won. The Corvanian Empire surrenders. What are your terms? Dr. Vale stepped forward, her cybernetic implants processing data streams from across the galaxy. Our terms are simple, Admiral. Complete withdrawal from all human colonies and territories. Immediate release of all human prisoners and slaves. Reparations for the genocide your empire committed. And formal recognition of humanity as a sovereign galactic power. And if we refuse? Admiral Kranos asked, though his voice lacked any real defiance. Morrison gestured toward the viewports where human ships now surrounded the planet. Then we finish what we started. But I don't think you want that, Admiral. You've seen what we're capable of when we're angry. Imagine what we might do if we stop holding back. Ghost's holographic form appeared on the bridge, its presence causing several Corvanian officers to reach for weapons they no longer possessed. Admiral Vortex, I have been monitoring communications across your empire. 17 systems have already declared independence. 23 more are requesting human protection. Your authority is collapsing faster than your fleet did. The ancient admiral closed his eyes, the weight of 3 centuries of conquest finally crushing down on him. How long have you been planning this? Since the day you burned Earth, Morrison replied simply. Every human child born in exile was raised on stories of their lost homeworld. Every generation that grew up in hiding knew this day would come. We've spent 100 years becoming the weapon that could defeat you. Dr. Vale activated a holographic display showing human settlements across the galaxy. Hidden cities revealed themselves on barren worlds. Underground colonies on mining asteroids opened their blast doors to the stars. Massive space habitats emerged from behind gas giant moons where they had hidden for decades.